Rohan Sharan is the founder of the TimeChain Labs. He will tell why the name is a time chain or how he has come up. Is there different chain, or is a blockchain, or is a clock chain, or what is there? He will tell. And he is the brand ambassador of the Bitcoin Association. He is ambassador for India. So that's what I was saying. He looks too young. He looks like a IIT Kharagpur student still, but whatever he's doing a lot of great things. He's alum of IIT Kharagpur and recognized as one of the top 50 blockchain influencers in India. He will be giving his talk, and at IIT Kanpur I was with him, and the type of the point he was putting, the way he was deliberating, really I have become fan of him, Sir Rohan, and I'm sure all the audience you will make fan of yours. So platform is yours. Thank you.
Today I'm going to talk about where the utility lies of blockchain away from the speculative nature of cryptocurrency market that we see right now. How a very productive economy of data can be built on the blockchain using Bitcoin, which has not been realized yet, which will be as we move forward and the industry matures much further than it is today. Right now, what is happening in the crypto markets will be known as the great crypto bubble 10 years from now, just like we know the dot-com bubble of the 2000s as the speculative bubble of just people buying up dot-coms just because it is a dot-com, without the underlying business models being looked at. But really, after the industry crashed of the dot-com bubble, real businesses building on using the technology of the internet survived, like Amazons and the Googles of the world. And they went on to build the new internet. And that's what is really exactly what's happening with the blockchain industry today. Really what the blockchain is a triple entry accounting ledger. It is a self-auditing ledger, which is an evolution of double entry accounting. In double entry, you have two different entries that are not reconciled and maintained separately. A credit entry, which the banking system follows currently a double entry model, a credit entry on one side at the bank and a debit entry on the other side. They are not linked together. What the shared ledger of the blockchain does is creates a third entry that links the credit and the debit into one and links it in a format that cannot be changed. So it becomes the best model for accounting, which cannot be tampered with, cannot be hoodwinked. You can't have models where fudging of the records happen when the accounting season comes in, just moving around the records. So it timestamps the records in such a way that it cannot be changed. That's the main property that we talk about always about the blockchain. If you can change the records, which is happening on the digital environment, which doesn't have the property of paper. Like the paper has the property that when you change it, you leave a trace. But in the digital world, you can just change around things, what happened 10 years ago, what the record was at that time, what the contract was at that time, that can be changed. So this property is brought about by the Bitcoin ledger into the digital world, the same property of the physicalness of paper. With this, we can have a high reliable data economy on the internet. What is also getting popular is the term distributed ledger technology. But what I want to bring to your notice is a term called shared ledger technology. Because really, the use of blockchain is much more congruent with this term of shared ledger. Having a global public shared ledger when you don't have multiple different silos of data forming again. If you have the data forming again with different databases, all having their own data silos, which are not getting interconnected, not getting linked, not getting timestamped, then we end up with the same problem we have with the internet today. And we don't really get to the use of a single shared ledger and get all the benefits with it. Bitcoin actually had the white paper mentions micropayments, small casual payments, along with the mention of timestamping of document, digital documents. This is what the reference of the Bitcoin white paper by Satoshi really talks about. 3 references just about talking timestamping, and digital timestamping. What really that enables is a data economy getting formed. It's there in the name itself. Bit is the unit of data. And coin is basically monetizing data and building an economy on the internet which monetizes data where the users own their data, and it is monetized instead of the advertisement model of the internet today, where users become the product, their data becomes the product, they don't have ownership over the data and choosing when they want to sell their data and not. This is enabled only because you have micropayments. By micropayments, we mean payments of amount 0.1 paisa on the internet. Global payments of that level enable you to value data which is actually priced very less. But on the internet, because everything happens at scale, let's say a Wikipedia website hits 1 million hits. So on scale, it becomes an asset. The digital page you own, or an article you wrote, or a post you made, or a video you made, they by themselves have value of their own that you can monetize. You don't have to rely on advertisements and selling your data and pushing off some other data for something. So incentives are aligned when you have a data economy naturally running on the internet. That was supposed to be the native economy of the internet, but we didn't have the technology at that time. HTTP error code 402 is an error code which was for payments, which was never completed in HTTP protocol. So Bitcoin is actually a protocol which really completes that micropayment model of the internet, bringing the native payments on the internet. It's at the level of IP and TCP, like there are layers of the internet which build the internet up, and Bitcoin really functions at that level, powering the data economy, integrating it with the current internet, and you move away from a subscriptions and advertisement model to a data economy model. Right now, what is happening with different protocols, different blockchains, is exactly what has already happened when internet came. When internet came, you had protocol wars happening with multiple different protocols, all vying for standardization, becoming the standard protocol on the internet. But the point of the internet is to have a public, common good. So it becomes one, most public protocol becomes the one standard protocol. That's how IP, Internet Protocol, came and won. Otherwise, we had multiple companies vying with their own nets, ARPANET and X26, different protocols were there. Gupta ji was there in that time. He was also aware of how IP later on won. He was telling me about that. This is exactly what is happening right now in the space. And one public protocol which provides all the benefits, all the use cases that can be there, and having the interoperability for every single use case, wins the war and becomes the global dominant shared public data ledger. You can see here how Satoshi mentions possibility for small casual transactions. This is really what micropayments he was hinting at. Micropayments on the internet, the original purpose. We call this new internet the metanet. Also, this is right now called Web3, the popular term for it. But really the one which we built on the BitcoinSV blockchain, we call it the metanet. The metanet is basically the internet of data monetized. Internet of value, we call it. So you pay per article, pay per minute of video. You can monetize in-game items, every single asset, every tweet's like. So all of it becomes assets for you. So this is where actually the value of Bitcoin comes from, which I wanted to address. And right now what's happening is a total speculative value of Bitcoin, which is totally not relying on utility of the ledger and using the ledger as a triple entry ledger. So Bitcoin has no value if there is no demand for the ledger. If that ledger is useless, if people have no demand for that ledger of making transactions on the ledger, so they don't need to have Bitcoins to pay the transaction fees, which was the point of it being a commodity to use the ledger for. So there's no value of Bitcoin and there's nothing there. So you have to have an economy formed on the ledger and using the ledger and build the new internet on the shared public ledger for them, the Bitcoin vision to be realized. The blockchain is really the time chain. Satoshi Nakamoto in his paper and in his code, in his comments in the code, always called it the time chain. And when you think of the blockchain in terms of removing the word blockchain and thinking in terms of time chain, it really starts making sense of what the use cases are. When you want to have a record of what happened at this moment in time such that it cannot be changed, that's the time chain. You're recording it on the time chain. It is a timestamp server. This is there in the Bitcoin white paper as well. It's a time chain which timestamps any record. It's the best record keeping system we could hope for. This is actually what inspired me to make my company and call it TimeChain Labs, building on the original vision of Satoshi. We have products called Newcron is a product which really is a wallet for Indians to be able to use the time chain without owning Bitcoins or getting exposed to Bitcoins. You can still use the ledger as a tool, as a utility with just rupees and gain all the benefits of smart contracts and the data economy of micropayments with just rupees. So for that, you need a digital micropayments wallet, which we are building as Newcron. What the blockchain provides is the triple entry accounting ledger, as I showed you. It provides data integrity, which is the tamper-evident records. It provides micropayments. It provides timestamps of any data and tokenizing assets, which you will see called as NFTs in the current popular marketplace, which are really representing any asset you have and tokenizing it on the ledger. And then you have the global public ledger acting as a single marketplace, a single ledger where every asset is tokenized and represented and then traded. So that gives us an efficiency in the economy that is unparalleled. We have huge information gains because it's all on a single ledger. We can have programmed financial instruments on content itself, on the data economy. You can have shares of content of revenue streams that is coming through a video. So basically that becomes a financial instrument built on the content. You can have derivatives. You can, just like you want to raise funds for a movie, you don't have funds to raise for a movie, but you know that the movie will be generating that video when you upload. It will be generating lots of revenue. So you're tokenizing the revenue streams of that video that will be in the future to raise money right now. That all is possible using the financial instruments created on the ledger, using programmable money and smart contracts. Blockchain for productivity, really the forum's name. Blockchain really enhances the productivity by having a single shared ledger where you don't have to have different silos which you are then integrating with multiple APIs, writing again and again. And this occurs not just in money or banking, it occurs even in supply chain. Because one entity, me, is having an asset, transferring to another entity. I have my own database. In my records, I have given it away. In their records, the person who had to take it and take it to the next level, their records are separate from my records. Now there is discrepancy happening again. Unnecessarily we are integrating. And in supply chain, the permutations and combinations you need to have to integrate multiple databases is too much. So a single ledger, when all of them get standardized and used, it increases the efficiency there. It becomes global efficiency because of the global ledger. And it provides accountability because you cannot fudge the records. It provides efficient contracting, which comes into legal tech actually. Once you can have a chain of digital signatures, which really what Bitcoin is, and it even talks about in the white paper, honest money. Really, the white paper mentions the word honest money 14 times in the white paper because it's an honest, transparent ledger for it to be used as a system of contracting because it's a digital signatures. You have digital signatures, everything can be traced. And it's a beautiful economy that can form with a huge productivity gains. The different use cases because of the record keeping system is huge because the record keeping system is used everywhere. So that's where it comes into payments, it comes into data, social media, as I was telling you about, the micropayment economy, the new metaverse forming, which is a rebranding of virtual reality. Esports, gaming is a big sector, and into accounting particularly, and even in regtech, regulatory efforts. Because right now on the internet, it is anarchy. Facebook and Twitter owning and controlling and dictating what politician needs to be censored and what politician does not need to be censored. This problem is because there is a monopoly on the distribution network. So right now, all the models of the internet which are popular are all advertisement based. They're all simply distribution networks, content distribution networks, and they have got a monopoly on distribution. So they ask you to pay them to have more distributive access, more distribution of your content. And then they can also obviously censor you if they don't like you, because they don't stop your distribution. So now the blockchain, what it does is it removes the monopoly in distribution. Every miner is a distributive agent. You don't have a monopoly, and every 10 minutes you have multiple competing miners completely distributing the transactions to other people. So the entire business model of having a monopoly on the distribution network and gaining everyone's user data and monetizing it and gaining it for yourself and having the network effects power gained by one entity, you have it distributed across the network and people gaining from their own data and earning from their own data. But this was not achieved. All of this which I am telling you about was supposed to be the vision of Bitcoin, but it never came to be. Unfortunately, the vision was taken off track. The protocol was suffocated in block size. Every 10 minutes, you have a new block which gets added to the chain of blocks, which is really what makes the blockchain, which is beginning from 2009 and still continuing today. But the size of blocks was restricted to only 1 MB in 10 minutes. Imagine the whole world's emails in 10 minutes, restricted to only 1 MB in size. Would email have gotten so popular as it is today? That was what happened with the current popular notion of Bitcoin, which is highly priced speculative asset called BTC, which is having a transaction fees of around $40 to $50 and even further when there is network congestion, because people are bidding their way into getting into the block in the 10 minutes that we have now because of the restricted block size. So this was what we fought for, and we restored the vision of Satoshi as BitcoinSV, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, protecting and preserving the original protocol from any changes and scaling the block size to terabyte size blocks, which will happen in a month. But already we are doing gigabyte size blocks, and this achieves scaling of the block size, which really achieves the vision we need for the internet, because we need huge number of transactions if you want to have the entire internet running on the blockchain. Right now, the biggest problem in blockchain industry is scalability and transaction fees. This is really solved with the economy of scale that Gupta ji was also mentioning, which happens when you have a scaling block size and a free market of block production and block consumption. We consistently do 2 million transactions a day with the transaction fees of less than 0.1 paisa. Satoshi Nakamoto himself, in his records of writing, we can see that has mentioned that Bitcoin doesn't have a scaling ceiling. It is unbounded. It can keep scaling. It beats even Visa of the scale requirement. We have been making world record blocks of 4 GB in size. Imagine it was only at 1 MB just 2-3 years ago, which is ridiculous when you think about it, because just a photo on your phone is 6 MB, 6 times of 1 MB. The protocol has been restored, and interestingly, we have gained all the advantages of blockchain even with smart contracts. So the popular notion is also that smart contracts is something associated with Ethereum and other blockchains that brought it into it. But actually, Bitcoin originally always had smart contracts, and you could always program every single Turing complete program that you ever wanted, because the scripting language in Bitcoin is Turing complete. This was also restricted along with the block size. This has been restored as BitcoinSV, achieving all the programmability of smart contracts we need. For it to be an enterprise blockchain and really using the ledger, we need huge transaction volumes. We don't care about the price. We don't care about the speculative aspect of it. But there is a use of using the ledger, which we demonstrate daily by having the most number of transactions done on a ledger today compared to all other ledgers. This will keep scaling. But because the block size was restricted, there were multiple blockchains coming to solve the same problem again and again. Because the scaling size was limited, you need to solve the transaction fee issue. Then you have the energy consumption issue, because again, the number of transactions that happen in a block, the block consumes a lot of energy to produce. So per transaction, the energy costs go high, but this is all reversed. It becomes hyper efficient. Proof of work of Bitcoin becomes hyper efficient because you again have economy of scale. You have per transaction, the energy is distributed across. If you have 1,000,000 transactions happening in a block, per transaction, the energy becomes super cheap, very less. BTC, the current dominant narrative of Bitcoin, is really not Bitcoin. It's not following the vision which Satoshi left when he left the protocol to the people. It's completely removed the even signatures from the ledger, having the honest chain of signatures. It has made it anonymous system to move away from government regulatory authority, which is not at all needed or even the vision of Bitcoin, even required. And the narrative that has been pushed is that it is a store of value. Bitcoin is a store of value, has pushed the speculative bubble of BTC without the use of the ledger. It has become a truly speculative asset without utility, which will inevitably fall. CoinCarbonCap is a website that compares all the proof of work blockchains in energy efficiency, and BitcoinSV regularly and continuously tops it because of its economy of scale model. 12 reasons why my company builds on the BitcoinSV ledger. It is scalable. As I showed you, the block size is scaling, so you have huge transaction fees which you really need. The transaction fees are cheap. You have smart contracts. You have instant transactions. You have security with the proof of work model. You don't need to change it. It is sustainable because the energy consumption per transaction is super cheap. As well as it is compliant with all the regulations, following the travel rules, the AML policy rules, because it's really what it was made for. It was an honest ledger. It is the most compliant more than any financial institution today, if you really use it the way it was designed. It has privacy, at the same time not having anonymity. Because for regulation and for good society, you don't want anonymity, but you do need privacy. So it achieves both. Without anonymity, you get privacy. It is reliable. It is a stable protocol set in stone, just like HTTP protocol or TCP protocol was at the fundamental level. And you build on top of it. You don't keep tinkering with the protocol again and again and diverging into multiple blockchains. It works with fiat itself. We can have tokenized fiat. We can have tokenized CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, rupees associated on the blockchain, represented on the blockchain. As I showed you with the Neutron wallet, we are trying to achieve as far as we can go. And when the CBDC support comes, we'll also integrate CBDCs, because that is the best way the economy of the country should work. And that's all. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please. 2 questions. Yeah.
When you said like Bitcoin is Turing complete, what do you mean by it? I think Turing completeness is not possible in Bitcoin. Are you talking about Bitcoin SV when you were talking about Bitcoin?
Yes.
So you
By default, yeah.
That's not right. Means I'm saying like when you say Bitcoin and when you say Bitcoin SV.
Yeah, so this is what happened as the civil war in the community. The community which was protecting the vision and the protocol without any changes and following the Satoshi's design and blueprint. Really, it comes down to a philosophical choice, whether you call the blockchain which is following the protocol and design of Satoshi as Bitcoin, or the one which is listed on the exchanges as Bitcoin. But yeah, coming to what you said about Turing completeness, Bitcoin are actually held in something called predicates. There's a scripting language which holds Bitcoins, and you unlock it and it exits with true or false. That's how you spend the Bitcoin. And that's actually what Vitalik Buterin, creator of Ethereum, was trying to build on and use. But the developers and controllers of the BTC protocol at that time, they didn't allow him to. So he had to go and use another blockchain and create his own. So all of this is restored, and a Turing complete language is already there, which doesn't have any of the problems that we currently face even with Ethereum. I have developed on Ethereum myself in my third year.
You can't run a for loop on your Bitcoin.
Yes, yes,
So you can't say that thing has to be only.
yes. And for loop is what creates the congestion in the Ethereum network, because you can have an infinite loop running.
That's the bar there. Actually, you can run for loop.
Yes, yes, yes. Even in assembly level processors, assembly code doesn't have for loop. It just has a jumping function, and you keep jumping again and again how many times you want. That's how it is. It's not there at the level of the assembly.
I just wanted to be very, very specific for the audience, because when you said Bitcoin, so the most important thing to take away is that when you were saying Bitcoin as Turing completeness, essentially you were mentioning Bitcoin SV as well.
This is true.
That's the only thing that
I 100% agree with you.
you said it maybe in the flow, but then this time.
Yes, that is true. Bitcoin SV is Turing complete, not BTC.
It doesn't. One minute, Ron.
Rohan, please come back.
Yeah.
You did a great job actually, Rohan.
So,
And he's the
Photo-
youngest
photo-
engineer, IT,
Photo-
Kanpur. And you can see. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you, sir.